No power greater than X.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Extra Mile. This is the show where we dive deep into the games and services you care about most. Of course, I'm Ryan Turford, but I'm joined, as always, by my very handsome co-host, Mr. Sean Capri, live on location, not in the car this week. Sean, how are you doing tonight?
I'm cozy in my sweatiest. Well, I was gonna say my sweatpants. Why are they called sweatpants?
Sure.
Like, well, hopefully not just like sitting around sweating our bag off, man. It's funny that you say that. I feel like I've been eating my feelings this week, Ryan. A little overwhelmed with things, with work, and I've been going to McDonald's and eating 6 donuts at a time.
You did tweet about that earlier today, and it made me want McDonald's because, Sean, I don't know if you knew this. I think I mentioned it before. I haven't been to McDonald's in almost a year.
You're healthier for it, man.
I haven't gone since before the pandemic.
It's not a badge of honor for me.
Yeah. I mean, I should go at some point because I feel like I'm missing out. But at the same
I don't
time,
know about that. I just talked to Brock McLaughlin the other day. He's been like boxing and working out. I'm like, dude, and I'm like sitting next to him. Like, I'm like, hey, I don't even know. I only fit in the hoodie that I'm in tonight and the pajama pants. That's it, man. So, but thank you. I appreciate the nice compliment. Don't mean to derail totally. I think we're here to talk about something pretty exciting, man.
We are. So we are going to be talking about the Video Game Awards 2020 edition. These are our official predictions of what's going to happen at the Game Awards, because the Game Awards is going to be this Thursday coming up. I think it starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mm-hmm. And we're both actually really excited about the Game Awards this year. I love it. I'm interested to see what kind of world premieres they're going to have, but also the awards are kind of fun. So we thought it'd be fun kind of to go through all of the awards. Well, not all of them, because there are some ones we should leave out because we got really nothing to say about them. But a lot of the categories, we have some thoughts about them. So we're going to go through them one by one for your amusement. And then in the comments of this video or us on Twitter at Sean Career, at Ryan Turford, you can go just yell at us and tell us how wrong we were.
Should I keep track? Should I like write these things down maybe? Like I kind of want to see like afterwards. Because the other thing too, we haven't really... We don't really do production meetings, you and I, Ryan Turford. No. It's like ain't nobody got time for that.
We literally put together like a 2-text conversation organizing this morning.
I know that'll be shocking to some people that like, wait a minute, I thought everything was so put together. Nobody thought that.
No, of course not.
But do you want to do like, I think I've seen some, or maybe you and I've done it before, where it's like what we think is going to happen or what we want to happen. Like, do you want to do both? Where we think like
that's
this is
exactly what I was going to suggest.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, why read your mind? Maybe we did talk about this. I
don't think we talked about this at point, but we have done prediction shows before, like E3, for example.
That's true. That's true. Okay,
so
I've got my notebook.
That's mostly where it came from. Oh, geez.
I've got a notebook. I'm going to keep track of stuff.
I was just going to put it in the Google Doc after we finish recording.
That would require. I guess you're going to you edit this with extreme.
That's a future
good
Ryan
detail.
problem. Future Ryan's an extra.
I'm trying to make life easy for you. Okay,
that's true.
Okay, well, whatever you want to do, I'm going to keep track anyways. I like taking notes.
That's all good. I'm gonna drive the show, as one would say, and we're gonna get right into it.
That's the thing. I feel like I'm not doing anything. You're driving the show, and I'm just here. I'm normally like driving around. You're
here providing the colorful commentary and being lovely for the fine folks at home.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start at the very bottom of the list that I showed you, Sean. We're not gonna start with Game of the Year. That's the one at the top. We're gonna start with Best Multiplayer Game. So this, of course, exemplifies just what had the best multiplayer of any game released this year. And I'm putting an asterisk on that because there's one game that it's kind of an asterisk and I don't know why it's here. So we're going to start with Animal Crossing New Horizons, Among Us, Call of Duty Warzone, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, and Valorant. Those are the 5 nominees for best multiplayer game. Sean, do you have a horse in the race at all on this one? Because I don't know how many of these
my
you've
horse
really played
is
multiplayer.
tied to dragging Animal Crossing in the opposite direction. Are you shitting me with this? I didn't even realize this was here. No, Nintendo, you're not allowed to win a best multiplayer thing until you get your crap together.
I mean, to be fair, have you even played the multiplayer in Animal Crossing at all, Sean? Because I haven't either.
So I had somebody stop by my island. It was the whole process. Like, that's the whole thing that I'm upset about. If anybody's wondering what my hate is for this game, you have to like go to this thing and you got to like open your gates and then have somebody like you send a code by text to somebody else and like maybe they'll show up and it's a different code if like it's your friend, and a different code if it's like not your friend. So like archaic and obtuse. I felt like it was easier if they would have just let me go log on to like a GameSpy server and then go do that
My
instead.
God. Just pulling the GameSpy reference just out of the back pocket right there.
So
That's
no,
amazing.
Animal Crossing is not it. I think for me, like Call of Duty Warzone is an awesome battle royale game, and I actually forgot that it's kind of like this is the year. It seems like sometimes, like when we talk about battle royale, it's like these games seem to have like been out forever. So it's like you'd expect to see something like that in the ongoing games, which we'll
I
get to
can't
that in a
believe
bit.
Warzone came out this year.
Right,
Like, that
yeah, it's
feels
just-
like a million years ago.
Same with
That game
Valorant, actually. Same with that.
Yeah, that was like January of this year was Valorant.
The other
Like,
thing
that
too is
was
Among Us
so
did
long
not
ago.
come out this year, Ryan.
No, it came out in 2018, but the asterisk, the reason why it's on the list and why it actually made it is because the mobile version of Among Us came
Oh,
out.
that's hilarious.
So it technically counts.
I like it. Okay, well, I think of the three, I think I'm going to lock in on both my answers here, Ryan, on what I
Okay.
think is going to happen and what I want to have happen. And I think
Sure.
Fall Guys should win, and I think it will win.
Okay. Just because I mean the thing is with Fall Guys, and this is kind of my thought process when I heard the nominees for all these awards, is that Fall Guys kind of came and went. Like it didn't really stick with people, and I think that's why I'm hesitant to say that it will win. Honestly, out of all the games in this list, it's probably the most fun out of all the ones I've played. So definitely my vote would be for Fall Guys. But if I was to say what would win, recency bias makes me feel like Among Us is going to win or Animal Crossing. It's going to be one of the two of those, I think, because I think Valorant. The problem with Valorant is the people that vote for these types of award shows are not the people that are like really the type of audience that are playing a lot of this type of game. Because
Yeah.
Valorant's like a very hardcore, like PC, like squad game.
Yeah, I agree. I
similar
don't
to,
think there's, I don't
Overwatch
think there's
or
any chance of
Counter-Strike.
it.
Yeah, I think that one again. I'm glad that it got nominated because it's really cool, but I don't think it's the game that's going to win. And Call of Duty Warzone, I think that would be a great choice too to vote for.
I agree.
But I think that again, it was just it's been so long ago that I think people might not remember it, and people are just.
I don't
love
even know
Animal
if
Crossing.
I'm
They give it that
not
bump.
saying that one's not going to win for any of those reasons. I don't know. Like for some reason, I just don't think Call of Duty wins awards, which I think is actually a shame. Like my avoidance or my not mentioning Call of Duty is actually like kind of heartbreaking because I think it's of the games here probably the best quality, right? Like and like I think that the take on
Warzone's
Battle
really good.
Royale is excellent. Like the Gulag and everything is awesome. So I don't know. Like I do think there was a lot of hype for Fall Guys. I think you're probably right. I could see it going to Among Us as well. To be honest with you, like I think that there's so much hype about that game.
Yeah, I would say I'm only leaning towards the judges voting for Among Us because it's so popular right now, and
Well, we'll see.
It's kind of like in the scope of things, and that's just a pattern I've seen from these award shows before. So that's just what I'm assuming will happen. But
We're
I
both
guess
going to
we'll
be
see.
wrong. It will be
again.
Call of
Like
Duty.
I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
No,
unless
Animal
the
Crossing. I
answer is
told you that
Animal
already.
Crossing.
Animal
Unless it's
Crossing is the
Animal
wrong
Crossing,
answer.
I think.
You got to be kidding me with this.
But otherwise, if any of these other games win, honestly, I think they're all good choices. Like this one's like really hard to call. This
Anytime
next
Animal
one,
Crossing
though,
comes up in this, man, you're gonna expect some fire coming from me.
it's going to come up a lot. So I'm bracing for it. But this next category, I think, is more cut and dry. Like, I think there's probably two front runners for this next one. We've got best sports and racing game.
Yeah.
We've got Dirt 5, F1 2020, which I know is Sean and I's favorite game, FIFA 21, NBA 2K21, and then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. I don't know how many of these games you've played, but honestly, the only game I haven't played on this list is F1 2020.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, I think, is the game to beat in this list. Like, there's no question in my mind that that game is going to be the game that should win and is the game that is going to win, because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, yes, even though the multiplayer wasn't perfect, I think when we played it, the single player for that game is fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
that game still holds up really well. It's super fun. It really just feels so good to have like a really great skateboarding game again. And out of all the games in this list too, it's also probably the freshest as well. Because again, we haven't had an amazing skateboarding game in a very long time. Whereas A lot of these are all iterative. You've got stuff like FIFA and NBA, for example, that come out every single year. The only
You know
other
what
one that
though,
might
dude?
stand
Like
out
those games, FIFA specifically just got they kind of shadow dropped their optimization for Series X and S.
I played it last night.
Dude, for the first time in a long time, I don't know about you, but I was watching a clip, and maybe it's different when you play, but like I watched a clip on Twitter the other night, and I thought it was real soccer. Like, and I know it's
Yeah.
like every generation we say this about the new like sports games or whatever. Like that looked so smooth. The animation looked so great, and I don't know what is going on with like the lighting in this game, but it looked like actual soccer. It was so nice.
It looks incredible. Like I was playing it last night, and I played a whole match.
Yeah, man.
and it's very hard to get me into a soccer game, but man,
I love
with the
FIFA,
Series X
dude.
optimizations, it's great. But NBA, the next gen version looks amazing for that game, but its biggest problem is its microtransactions, and
Right.
FIFA kind of falls into the same camp. And I think that kind of shies people away from voting for a game like that. And Dirt 5, I think, was probably the best racing game this year, but it wasn't. I don't think it was like a standout racing game or anything.
Yeah.
Like that. So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it has a
hear
chance of winning.
the F1s are really good. Like,
Yeah.
I think- look at that. Like, Codemasters doing both of them as well. That's super interesting.
I think with F1, it's kind of in the same camp as Valorant, where it's probably a great game, even though, again, I haven't checked it out because, again, I don't play F1 games. But I think a lot of the voting committee probably won't have had a chance to play it either.
Well, no
most of them probably
MLB
played
to
Tony
show,
Hawk.
right?
No.
On this,
That's
which is
actually kinda
really
surprising.
interesting. I know that's a good baseball game, but
Yeah.
nowhere to be found here. Which I think is really funny that you've got like and I don't know. I get that even racing games. I get maybe you pile those into sports because like they probably don't have enough to have their own real
Well, you
category.
just don't have enough.
And then
Yeah.
also like Tony Hawk like is more arcade really than anything to like call like to put it right next to FIFA and NBA I think is a little bit interesting. But I am with you that I think it's probably going to win. I would like to see a game like FIFA. I haven't really played it to be honest, but I would like to see FIFA win. So I'm going to vote for FIFA. But I think you're right. I think Tony Hawk is probably going to take it.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, again, like I think it's hard for the judges probably to vote for a game like FIFA because it is just iterative.
Yeah.
Like you besides the visual changes from the next gen version, which wouldn't have made it in time for the voting anyways.
Good point.
Like I like you can't really factor that into it. So I think just but judging the current gen version of that game, I think it's going to be tough for it to win.
In the end, I guess I just don't know if this one really matters for me a whole lot.
That's also true.
I do want to get back
But-
into Tony Hawk. I do want to try that again, but it kind of
especially
like
because
came
now
and
they
went for
have
me.
private lobbies now, so we can actually
Yeah.
not have to play with other people and make our own game. And you can play all the
We're too
different
busy
games.
playing
We can all set
Halo,
all
man.
different modes.
For multiplayer or
That's
for
true.
anything else. That's we got Halo Saturday nights. That's what we're doing.
I mean, we can't even make room for Rainbow Six, Sean. So where are we going to fit Tony Hawk
Seriously,
in
man.
there?
Like quit our job.
Well, next up, best sim and strategy game, and surprisingly, I think we actually have stuff to say about this category. So we've got Crusader Kings 3, Desperados 3, Gears Tactics, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and XCOM Chimera Squad. So out of these games, I think the only two you might have checked out are Gears Tactics and Flight Simulator, right, Sean?
Those are the ones. Man, Crusader Kings made a big splash this year, though, didn't it? I think it came out of
did,
nowhere.
Yeah, I mean the Crusader Kings and XCOM I didn't check out, but I have played Desperados. It's like a Wild West strategy game. It's very similar to XCOM, or Mutant Year Zero. It actually plays very similar to that game as well. And then Gears Tactics. You and I both really liked that at the beginning of the year. We had a lot of fun with it. And then Flight Simulator 2 just really took the like everyone by storm when it
Really
came out
did.
as well. I'm very surprised that it actually got nominated for a category, and so thankful that it's actually here because
Yeah.
that's the type of game that could have been nominated for Game of the Year this year.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. Like this thing is a technical masterpiece. When you think about like Game of the Year, there's so many different things that and ways that you can look at that. And just from a technical standpoint, it is masterful. Like, and it's in a class of its own. There's no simulator that even comes close to it. And like for those reasons, to me, it's such a no brainer. These other games I think are strong. Tactics games, I think they're probably strong in their own right. Gears Tactics, I think, was a nice mishmash of what you would typically expect from an XCOM type of game, as well as like the Gears gameplay. The way they merged those worlds together, I think, was really good. But goodness gracious, like Microsoft Flight Simulator was just like, how can you even touch that, man? Like it's so
Yeah.
crazy.
Like I would say between that, it's going to be between that and Crusader Kings, I think. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I just don't know enough about Crusader Kings to weigh in on that. But
I think you'd like it.
honestly, I think Flight Simulator's got to take this one.
Yeah, so both.
If
That's
it's
what
not
you.
that, it's-
that's what
it's-
you'd vote for, and you think
That's what I
gonna
would
happen?
vote for. That's what I would vote for, and it'll be that or Crusader Kings, but I'm leaning towards Flight Simulator.
I don't have enough
what do you
room for
think,
like
Sean?
2 choices on my page, so you got it.
I'm going to say Flight Simulator.
Okay, so
I'm
we
gonna
are
lock it in.
unanimous on this one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's too strong of a game to pass up. And yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that Flight Simulator isn't really a game; it's more of a simulator. But that's the sim category.
That's the category. That's
it's in the
exactly
title.
it. And the other thing, I think what I thought you were going to say is maybe not enough people played it, which I think would be interesting. But it's just like even though this
Crusader
whole
Kings is in the
process
same
is just
boat,
interesting
too.
what shows up and what doesn't, right? And what people
Yeah.
were able to recall that they even played this year.
Because out of all these games, the most accessible one was actually XCOM.
Right.
Like XCOM Chimera Squad, because it was super cheap and a lot of people had access to it and a lot of people played it right away.
Yeah.
But it was definitely the weakest of the new XCOM games. And I think that hurts its chances of winning this category, I think.
Right.
Well, next up, we got best family category, and it's the return of Sean's favorite game. But before we get to that,
The way
I
that
think this
it's
is a
written, though, it
category
just
that-
says best in family, doesn't say anything about game. I wish that this was just like, let's vote for a family we really like.
Can we vote for Sean's family because they were making Xbox ornaments today?
Yeah, man.
So we got Animal Crossing New Horizons.
No.
Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. Minecraft Dungeons, our first Microsoft Game Studios acquisition besides Flight Simulator and Gears Tactics. And Paper Mario and the Origami King. This one's just all over the place. There's
Yeah.
just like, I don't even know how you start to compare some of these games. But Sean, as a person with an actual family versus me, who just lives vicariously through the stuffed animals he has in his living room,
Yeah.
what a family life would be. What do you think the best family game of these choices would be? Because again, you could go a number of different ways with this one.
Okay, well, here's the thing. As much shade as I'm throwing at Animal Crossing, because by the way, I can't play it on my Nintendo Switch Lite. I have to stick with my main Nintendo Switch. I can't even like play in the different.
Focus, Sean. Focus.
I am so outraged at what Nintendo forces me to do. But what I will say that is very nice about Animal Crossing is it's, I think, the first game with my family that I've been able to play on a semi-regular basis where I finish work, I go upstairs, I see what everybody's doing, and then we spend between 15 and 20 minutes and the kids just sit with me while I play Animal Crossing. And they love it. Like Lincoln's telling me to go shake this tree or go like get my fossils or whatever. And it's really actually quite sweet. So like for me, it's like I don't even have that experience with any of these others. I think there might be something to be said with Minecraft Dungeons for a different age group of kids. Like there's no way I'm playing that with Lincoln.
Yeah.
And I have
That's
this
like a
I have
10
similar
to
like grapes with that
15-year-old.
one on crossplay. Like it didn't launch with crossplay. It's like it comes from Microsoft. Like that was kind of a bit of a mess. But that was a very strong Diablo-like game. I think it was great. But I think just from my own experience, what I've played with my family, what I think is going to be like a no-brainer on the game show is Animal Crossing is going to take it for sure.
Yeah, I think this is the category that you give to Animal Crossing. It's kind of like the Oscars where you want to have like, so like you don't. I think Animal Crossing is the type of game that I personally wouldn't vote for Game of the Year for, but I think I would definitely give it this category because it should win something. And I think out of all the games here too, like it's probably the best for families. Like as evident in your own household, Sean. Like I think that it's the one that families can really play together. I mean, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit is probably another strong one. In that, for the same reason, like you could play that with your kids and set it up, and it's like actual toys in your actual house, and you play on your Switch, and it's cool.
So if Mario Kart Live wins Best Family Game, then Animal Crossing is going to go on to win the best game.
Right, but I think it's just going to be hands down for this category because I don't think Animal Crossing is going to go all the way. But that's spoilers for later.
Damn.
Animal Crossing is going to win this category. For
Yeah.
sure. I think it's a lock. I mean, there's to be fair, I personally thought the best game. On this list here, if I was just waiting for the quality of game, is actually Crash Bandicoot 4. I think that's the best quality game on this list. But Animal Crossing is definitely going to win this one for sure. Well, next up, and I'm gonna take the reins on this one, Sean, because this is Brian Turford's category. Best RPG. We got Final Fantasy VII Remake, Genshin Impact for Jace, of course, Persona 5 Royal, Wasteland 3, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. I have played every single game on this list, And the game that I think will win and should win is one and the same. I think Persona 5 Royal, even though it's not a brand new game technically, is by far the best game on this list, hands down. It was the game with the best Metacritic score this year. Not that that should play in this at all, but also it's just a fantastic role-playing game from top to bottom. There's so much new content that it's a very different game from the first game. Like even though a lot of the story is similar, it plays out very differently. It's not a sequel. It's almost like a 1.5 step, kind of like something like Miles Morales is, where it's not like a full sequel to Spider-Man, but it's like an iteration or a step up of it. And hands down, out of all the games on this list, like Persona 5 Royal might be the best game I played this year. It is that good. And I think it's definitely the best RPG on this list. And
How dare you?
And to be fair, even though I'm saying that it will win, I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
That's my vote for sure, man.
Too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That game is gonna it's something new. It's something it basically defined the remake. That's how I feel about that game in the way of like the way people talk about it. I played the first few hours of it. I actually traded it in, Ryan, because I'm like, I'm not playing this yet.
No.
It's still got a good trade-in value. I've traded it in. I'll probably pick it up on like Boxing Day maybe. But I was gonna pick it up
Why
on.
don't you wait for the Xbox version?
What?
Why don't you wait for the Xbox version?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It was like I was thinking I might pick it up on Black Friday. It didn't get quite cheap enough, you know what I mean? Like just because I got all these other games that I can play. But yeah, I keep thinking about what one of your predictions was that Final Fantasy VII Remake will launch into Game Pass whenever it launches.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if it doesn't come to Game Pass, I mean, we'll be seeing that on Xbox in 4 months. So at this point, if you already sold it, you want to rebuy it, just wait for Xbox.
I might as well wait. I loved Wasteland 3, dude. I really think like my personal vote is with that one, where like I really did stick with that, and I was playing on PC primarily, and even though it's got it's available on both Xbox and on PC as well, like that seemed to be like a big jump for that series as well. But like I totally recognize Final Fantasy VII, the achievement that they've done. Like they didn't screw it up. You know what I mean? Like it's just like not only did they not screw it up, I do feel like I'll just reiterate like that they've established what people's expectations are on revitalizing and remaking a franchise that people really, really love. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Persona 5 is just that like it's a different style of RPG. Like, and I've played the original Persona 5. I didn't play Royal, and the main reason was just like I didn't know that I wanted more of that. That game was already long in the tooth.
It was only 100 hours, Sean.
Yeah, it's just Genshin Impact, I think, is really interesting. I think there's a lot of people who have really enjoyed that game. I have it installed. I haven't gotten to it, unfortunately, but that does look really, really good. I like to see that nominated here. It's a bit of it's one of the ones that like to me stands out as very different in just like even where it comes from, like you know, even the like where in the world this game comes from compared to the other games on this list. So really interesting category, to be honest. So my personal pick was Wasteland 3 because I really liked it. I liked the style of it, the way that it played. The missions that I was on was just like super wacky. Like I'll never forget. Like when a role-playing game, a long game can hit me with like things that I actually remember later on, like breaking into this dude's apartment because like the old lady down the hall was thinking he was making too much noise and he's making clones of himself and everything. Like so strange and super irreverent and self-aware. I really liked it. So it's my personal pick is Wasteland. But I do think I 1000% expect this game, Final Fantasy VII Remake, to take it.
Yeah. I'm only making, I think the wiggle room for Persona to take it will be that I think Final Fantasy is going to win more prestigious awards later on than I'm going to talk about. And that kind of plays into my picks of what I think will win. So
that's fair.
That's why and to be fair, honestly, I just think Persona 5 Royal is an incredible game and I think it definitely deserves it. But let's move on because we don't want to dwell on this forever. We got Best Action Adventure Game. This one is going to get heated because there's a lot of really good options.
This could be the game of the year category.
Right here, yeah. So Best Action Adventure includes Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Ghost of Tsushima, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. It finally happened. It got an award nomination.
Holy cow.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which was technically eligible because it came out very late last year. And then The Last of Us Part 2. Good God,
man.
What is with this category? I mean, Sean, what do you think about this one?
This is tough, man. Okay, so Ori is not nominated for Game of the Year. So it's like this is the shot that it's got.
In fact, this is the only gameplay focused category Ori is nominated for.
Right,
The other
like not
the other
artwork or
ones are
music.
like graphics and music. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I'd love to see that. It's tough though, man, because like Assassin's Creed I am loving. Like I would personally vote for that. Ghost of Tsushima is one that I really regret missing. And same thing with Marvel Spider-Man, but based on like my experience with the original Spider-Man game, which I platinumed, like I love that game. I think that Insomniac has something really special, like a once in a lifetime, kind of once in a generation type of game. And I'm hearing great things there. I think that could take it as well. Like we're not exaggerating when I just look at this
Like
list.
any one of these could win.
I don't want The Last of Us to win because based
Well,
on
I mean, any one of them could.
I don't
yeah.
think based on so if we look at like really literally on this, like the action nor the adventure, I don't think that I like on The Last of Us 2. Like I think it's odd that when you elevate it to like the game of the year, you're talking about different things. You're talking about like performances and art direction and all these other things. But as far as like art action and adventure, I don't think The Last of Us is in the same category as some of these others. And Star Wars was just such a special game. I'm kind of just like commenting on each one, but do you have a thought on where you would want to go with this one?
So first of all, I can already tell you the one that I would vote for this category is Ori, because again, there isn't another option to vote for it from a gameplay technical side. And honestly, it was an amazing action adventure game. It really fits the definition of the category of action adventure game to a T.
Yeah.
Especially because there's no platforming or Metroidvania category.
Yeah.
Like it is an action adventure game through and through. And some of these other games kind of bleed the edges, like you kind of alluded to a little bit. But I think Ori is definitely the game I would vote for. What I think will win is probably going to be Ghost of Tsushima.
That's what I was gonna say, man. I'm absolutely right with you. I think Ghost is gonna win. I don't think it's got a chance on really anything else during the night. And I'm with you. I think that's the one that's gonna take it. I mean, and also like super original. And I'd like to see brand new IP. I mean, even Ori is a sequel, but like it's just it's so damn perfect.
Although I will say though that I think there's a dark horse in this race, and that's Jedi Fallen
Star
Order.
Wars, definitely.
I think, because especially knowing the people that are voting on this award, I think that it has a chance of winning.
Yeah,
like it has a very good chance of winning between. I think it'll be between the two of those. Because
can we do both?
Assassin's
I would
Creed,
agree with you. I'll just put a slash. I'll put Ghost / Star Wars.
I mean, I'm just saying Ghost for sure, but I'm just throwing it out there for commentary. Because I also think I think it won't be Assassin's Creed or Marvel Spider-Man, because by the time this voting came around, I don't think enough people had a chance to play those games in time. And then Last of Us, I think people are just saving for later awards.
I agree.
And then Ori, I think not enough people played it. Like, it's sad to say, but I think not enough people played Ori. The fact that it's not nominated for Game of the Year, Sean, I'm pretty sure it's pretty evident as to how many people.
That's a good way to view it.
Ori
Definitely.
Yeah. So I would say, we're pretty much unanimous on this. It'll be Ghost of Tsushima, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, next up, Best Action Game. We got Doom Eternal, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, Neo 2, and Streets of Rage 4. There's no shooter category, which is the reason why Doom Eternal's in here, in case you're wondering why.
That's so funny.
Whereas the rest of these games are all like very, very different games from each other. You've got shooters in Doom Eternal or Half-Life Alyx, and then Hades, which is like a roguelike game, and then Streets of Rage 4, which is a brawler, and then Neo 2, which is a Souls-like game. So
love it.
It's like it's all over the place.
It's so progressive. I think like I look at that and you take that category and go back like into 1995 and talk to a best action category from back then. It's just like, look what happens in the future. So different. Each of these games I think has its own right to be here for sure. Half-Life Alyx is one that I didn't play, but I don't know that it's getting recognition really anywhere else. I think it's often commented as a snub on.
So I will say, it is nominated for the best VR game. We did not do the VR games on here because neither of us own VR headsets, but I think that's the category it's going to win.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's going to win this one for that reason. But yeah, you're right. Because it won't get snubbed is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because it's nominated for that at least.
Well, in that case, like I think Doom will win it. I don't know why. I feel like somehow there'll be like a Jeff Keighley, some sort of bias. He loves the first Doom, and I'm sure he loved this one as well. It's a big badass game, dude. Like that game is just like when you talk about action, I feel like that's probably the one that is like most pure action. Neo 2 right behind it.
Well, actually, Streets of Rage 4 is probably the other one I would say fits that same description you just threw out there as well. Like,
I
it's,
get, like,
it's
arcade.
pure action.
Yeah.
It's just very arcadey action.
Yeah.
But it's pure action in that form. Whereas Neo 2, I actually think that game is excellent, but I just think not enough people played it. So
I agree.
I'm with you though. I think Doom Eternal is the game that will win. The game I would vote for actually is Streets of Rage 4. That would be the game that I think that I mean, it elevated itself beyond its genre, which is brawlers, and gave us something that was more than just your standard brawler, like your standard arcade game. Like, gave us a whole bunch of other modes and unlockables and a whole buttload of content.
Yeah.
Like, I think Streets of Rage 4 is a fantastic game that is outside of its genre, and that's all. And I'm also saying all of this too because I haven't played Hades, so that's the thing that's going to come up a lot. Because Hades is going to be a game that's going to come up a lot tonight, and I just haven't played it at all. So
I'm waiting for Game Pass.
Yeah, or even if it even comes to Xbox, Sean. It might not even come to Xbox at all.
Come on, it's got to be Game Pass.
I hope so, anyways. But yeah, what are you locking in on this?
Oh,
one?
I'm sorry. Doom
for sure?
on both. I think Doom should win, and I
Okay.
think that it will win. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, innovation and accessibility. And we probably don't have a ton to say on this one, but I want to throw it in there because I think it'd be a fun discussion. We've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Grounded, Hyperdot, shout out to Charles, The Last of Us Part 2, and Watch Dogs Legion. And the reason I want to throw this in here is I wanted to highlight these games because I think all 5 of these games actually are great case points for just the how far we've come as far as accessibility in video games.
Yeah.
Like, all these cases, I think, have fantastic accessibility options across the board. We've talked about on the show when this award came up, when we were talking about Hyperdot being nominated, about how much work Charles went into, with putting accessibility options into Hyperdot. Like, that's a fine example of accessibility right there. But even like turning on Watch Dogs for the first time and then hearing the text to voice, like being the first thing you hear and see in that game, like, that's incredible. Like, and Ubisoft has been really trending in that direction. That's the other reason why Assassin's Creed is here as well, because it's very evident from the start of that game that they've really done a lot with that. So I don't know if we can really pick a winner here. I mean, unless you have a horse in the race here, but I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted this because I do think that all these games are great choices, and I think that it's really good to see our industry really progressing in that direction. And I'm glad to see that all 5 of these games here are excellent choices for this category. And I think the voting selection actually did a really good job picking these games out. But what do you think, Sean?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we've got some room to grow in terms of how we even like evaluate this sort of thing. I'm not entirely sure how like you have the same people voting for like best action game as weighing in on innovation and accessibility, or if there's like a different group of people who might want to weigh in on that, because if that's the case, where everybody's just voting the same and it's not necessarily like any special attention given to this or special selection committee or anything like that, I think that it then comes down to like who marketed their accessibility better than the others, right? Where I think, I know that Charles put in a lot of time into his accessibility options. And I'd love to see like an indie game get some recognition on this kind of stage. So definitely love to see that. But people are aware, they're well aware of The Last of Us. Like they talked about like, what was it, like 60 some odd options or 42 or something like that.
It's
There's a very
ridiculous
specific number of features, right? And I feel like that's kind of like where we're at when we talk about this sort of thing right now, rather than, you know, like what it took to implement these accessibility features or like what benefit it had to the players who ended up utilizing them. So I don't know necessarily. Maybe we are there and I'm just not aware of it. But for some reason, like I would predict that The Last of Us 2 will end up getting it. But you got to give a shout out to Ubisoft here too. Like just really, like they're there across the board. And you know, like as a company, and this goes for innovation, accessibility and everything, like they are so unified across so many different developing teams across the world. You know a Ubisoft game when you see it, right? And it's from like the style of game to this, like everything about it is like they have an identity, and you got to hand it out to Ubisoft for that. But I think The Last of Us 2 is probably going to take this one.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. As much as I want to see some of these other games win, I definitely think it'll be The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
So there we go. We can give The Last of Us one award, Sean. It doesn't need to, they don't need any others, right, Sean? That's over for the night. They don't need any others,
that's
right?
it. Yeah, I was going to say something
right.
that was going to actually marginalize the category here, and I don't want to do that.
Well, let's move on. Best community support And again, this one, I don't think we have too much to say on, but I wanted to throw it out here just in case. We've got Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Fall Guys, Fortnite, No Man's Sky, and Valorant. Again, we don't really play too many of these games because I know you just got into Destiny 2. I mean, we've been playing Fall Guys. We haven't really touched Fall Guys, though, since season 2 came out, though, I don't think.
What does community support even mean? Like, this is the game that's like, this is not ongoing game. This is the team. It's recognizing the developers that is supporting the community, I guess. Like,
well, it's actually, you brought up the exact thing I was going to do, because I'm going to rope in best ongoing into this category as well. Because we should talk about it. We should make it one discussion.
Right.
Best ongoing is Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. So it's pretty much the same.
Right.
I mean, across the board. Community support is mostly just providing updates for the game, making sure it's like well balanced and bug free. And then ongoing is just like what's providing the like overall content updates and stuff.
So
like that.
weird that it's split. You're right. They're damn near mirror images of each other.
Yeah. The only difference is Valorant is not an ongoing game because it's brand new.
Oh yeah,
and
it's brand new.
And that's it. And then that's it. And then Warzone's not best community support, I guess. But yeah, for this one, honestly, with the amount of work we've been seeing go into a game like No Man's Sky throughout the year, I think that's probably my choice for the game to pick for this one. Destiny 2, other than the expansion, I don't know what else Destiny 2 had this year. Besides that, I mean, that's probably a question for Jace, I guess, because Jace is kind of our Destiny guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Fall Guys, other than season 2, it was kind of content free for a long time. And I don't know if I would throw that into here.
That's what I was going to go with, though. And the reason why is I thought that they were really quick on adding like the skins thing that they did. They were like, they got, you know, especially for community support. I think like for community support, my vote is for Fall Guys, and it's I think it is going to be Fall Guys. It's going to take it. For ongoing, I think No Man's Sky should and will take the best ongoing game. I think it absolutely needs to take it needs to get recognition for finally like getting, it's basically like the redemption award that they'll get.
Yeah.
And it's just too bad that like Sean Murray won't be able to like step up on stage and accept it for real. It's just like he just continues to be like holed up in his house like basically since 2012 or whatever when he ever started working on this game.
I wonder how big the beard's gotten.
The beard is just going to be like growing into his feet. I don't even know. That doesn't make sense. But I think Fall Guys, like, I think they did a really great job. I think it was as big as it was this year because of the community support. The ongoing support, I think, is a little bit a different category, a different conversation. But they were very, very quick to, they had a really strong social presence, I think, on Twitter and elsewhere. But the way that they included influencers to really kickstart this, it was such a grassroots kind of game, especially with PlayStation Plus being available to so many players and then inexpensive availability to everybody else on PC. Yeah, that when that thing was hot, it was hot because the community, they were aware of what they had and they were celebrating their community along the way. So I think Fall Guys got it for community support.
Definitely. Yeah, for community support and an ongoing, I'm going to say No Man's Sky for both, but yeah, and honestly, it'll probably be for Fall Guys. Yeah, I think that's the game that will win community support, and then ongoing, I think.
Wait, which? I'm confused. Which one's which?
So community support, I think I think Fall Guys will win.
Okay.
But I would vote No Man's Sky. And then best ongoing, I think both of us are saying No Man's Sky for both, kind of thing.
Okay.
There. I know you're doing your writing. So next up.
I'm not able to follow that, but
best indie game.
I'm not going to ask you again.
Best indie game. And this one I know you've played a few of them, so I wanted to rope it in here. We've got Carrion, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, Hades, Spelunky 2, and Spiritfarer.
Ooh.
Sean, I know you've played Spiritfarer, Fall Guys, and Carrion. Do you think either one of the three of those games deserves the title over Hades?
Oh my gosh, dude. What a great category. And even Spelunky is in here as well. Like, I know a lot of people really like that.
I played it. I played Spelunky 2 and I loved it.
Yeah, man. This actually just goes to show like what my year has really been is a lot of these smaller games. This could be anything. Like Carrion, I don't think is going to take it, but I really did like it. And I think a lot of people kind of were like mostly above middling on this. Mm-hmm. Spiritfarer is an absolutely gorgeous game. I think it's special in its own right. That's probably, that would actually, you know what, I'm going to give that one my personal vote, I think would be Spiritfarer. But I do think that that Hades is going to take this, and I don't actually think it's going to be close.
No, I don't think so either. I think that Hades is going to win this. I haven't played Hades, so I can't really give it my vote. But my personal vote would be Spelunky 2.
Nice.
Spelunky 2
Yeah,
would
man.
be my personal vote. That's just a fantastic like evolution of the formula that we saw in the first Spelunky, and I love that game from top to bottom. It's a lot of fun. So, but yeah, Hades. I don't think Hades is going to win Game of the Year either. Spoiler alerts for later.
Yeah.
So I think that this is where Hades wins. Is best indie game. Kind of like Celeste. When it kind of like Hades' journey through to the Game Awards reminds me so much of when Celeste was like nominated for Game of the Year and Emmy Awards and stuff like that. And I'm kind of lumping it in the same category. Well, next up, best performance. We're skipping ahead a little bit because we're running a little bit short on time. We've got Ashley Johnson as Ellie in The Last of Us. We got Laura Bailey as Abby, Sean's favorite character from The Last of Us Part 2.
I like the character. The game. It's a complicated game to talk about, man.
It is, and we're gonna do that in a second. Daisuke Tsuji, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, as Jin from Ghost of Tsushima, Logan Cunningham as Hades in Hades, and Naj Jeter as Miles Morales in Spider-Man Miles Morales. Sean, what do you think about this one? I mean, first of all, is there any question that it's not going to be Ashley Johnson? I think for this.
I think this is a tough one. I think, first of all, the representation here is probably the best that we've seen in this kind of category. It's just like,
I'm loving it.
I think that is awesome. So I think I'm just kind of like reading the room a little bit on this one, as well as maybe some favoritism probably going over to the Last of Us camp. But I think Miles Morales has an opportunity here. Right. I think people have really, really fallen in love with that character. And Daisuke Tsuji, I think, also probably could win here as well, just from but more that's I would say that's probably more of a dark horse. But in my heart of hearts, I think this is going to go to The Last of Us. And I do believe it's going to be a toss-up. Laura Bailey, I think, surprised a lot of people. I think Laura Bailey made people feel things that made them feel uncomfortable. And so this is why it's a complicated game to talk about. And I know we're an Xbox show, but I played that game in a weekend, man. I destroyed that game like in a way that I didn't really play.
And how did you feel after you destroyed that game, Sean?
Yeah, well, so
it doesn't make you feel good.
Ashley Johnson, I don't know, as for Ellie. I think my vote is actually going to go for Laura Bailey. It's not to take anything away from Ellie's character at all. It's just like Abby came up out of nowhere, and you hated her. And then I don't even want to ruin it either. Like the journey you go on with Abby is something really, really special. Ellie's a little bit different. I don't know. I guess I just knew Ellie already. And maybe it's like because I prefer Ellie in the first game that I'm not leaning towards Ashley Johnson in this one. But yeah, I think both. I think Laura Bailey should get Abby, and I think she will get Abby. Or I think she will get the award.
As for me, my personal vote would be for Daisuke as Jin from Ghost of Tsushima. I thought he did an incredible job, but honestly, I think it's going to be Ashley Johnson. That's who I think is going to win.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think it's probably a toss-up. I'm just going for Ashley Johnson because she didn't win the last time around when it was Troy Baker who won.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's going to be the camp people are going to vote in. But
I'm just trying to.
Not only that, but I think Abby is kind of a character that is kind of very split. Whereas Ellie's character, I think a lot of people are just more friendly to. And again, that's. You kind of have to take you should take that take yourself out of that when you're voting on this, but I don't think.
What do you mean? I should take myself out of what?
Well, out of what because this category should be more about the performance and less about the character itself and its depiction, which is why I think Laura Bailey is probably the strongest choice, like you said.
Yeah.
Because even though not everyone agrees with Abby being there, and again, we're not going to get into why.
I thought Abby was more.
Laura Bailey's
I thought it was a more difficult
incredible
role to play. Like number one, that you had to sort of develop it. Like she had to create a different connection with the player than Ashley Johnson did because of everything that happens, and it's just she's more rounded out. Like Ellie is just she's so one dimensional. Like she's got her mind made up, and she's not really doing anything about it. And I thought the journey you go, I guess maybe you're right. Like maybe I'm not separating what happens with these characters and who actually plays them. But to me, I don't know that you can separate that because in the performance you have to connect with that. So this is it's an interesting category. I can't wait to see what happens with this one. I'll be really interested to see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, next up, best score and music, and this one gets me excited because there's some great soundtracks on here. We've got Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and The Last of Us Part 2. I love music in video games. Especially like when I'm writing scripts and stuff like that. Like that's mostly what I'm listening to. I listen to a lot of music from games. And this year was actually a really good year for soundtracks and games. And honestly, I think these are all great choices, but my personal pick and the thing I think is going to win are one and the same. Is Final Fantasy VII.
Wow.
I think that the music in that game, that they not only took the songs from the original game and remixed them and orchestrated them in a loving and caring way, but they also added some great original music to Final Fantasy VII Remake as well. There's a lot of music that wasn't in the original game that's in this one. And Uematsu, again, did an amazing job with a lot of the score. And I know he wasn't alone on this one. There were a lot of great composers that put the work into Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, the Genova theme that they did this time around is in like 4 different parts, and it's like each part is just an amazing song on its own. And I was listening to those on repeat after finishing the game. I tear up every time I hear Tifa's theme, the version that they have in this game. Like,
why is that, Ryan?
Man. Oh, because I'm very nostalgic for Final Fantasy VII, Sean. So, and Tifa's my favorite character. So, I mean, I'm very
trying to
nostalgic
bait you into something, but I don't know what happens. I don't know if they like change anything up, but
no. So
dude, I didn't see this coming.
say,
No, you're right. I think you're right about this. I think that actually could be that could really get it. Actually, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I personally have like for my pick, because I haven't played everything here. I would love for it to go to Ori. I think the Doom Eternal soundtrack was good, but I think actually the original one was better, and it actually did reuse some of the songs. Like some of the best songs was like in Doom Eternal was from the original soundtrack. I don't know why, but I think The Last of Us 2 is actually going to take this one. Like I just have this weird feeling that we're gonna start seeing like The Last of Us start to scoop up like everything, and that a lot of the experience, like when people talk about like the emotional attachment, the feeling they got when they played The Last of Us, how can you separate? And we're gonna get to this in art direction as well, maybe, but score as well. Like it's so the overall art is the experience that people have with The Last of Us. It's the performances, it's the music, it's everything else aside from like the gameplay that people get really, really excited about, at least for me. Mm-hmm. So I think The Last of Us 2 is going to take it, but I would love to see Ori get some love. So my personal vote is Ori.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I picked Final Fantasy VII for probably will win for this one is honestly, I think even though you're right, it is more of that overall experience. Like the music in The Last of Us is much more muted than Final Fantasy. Like Final Fantasy's music is that much out there, but I think
that's true.
It's also more memorable that way. Where I think it got a lot of people talking.
To be fair, I think you're going to be right on this one. So, for whatever that's.
I'm actually pretty sure that's what it's going to wind up. Mm-hmm. But next up, best art direction, as you kind of hinted at, and it's a lot of the same games that we just talked about: Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and The Last of Us Part 2. For this one, I don't know how you don't vote for Ori for this.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm the same. We're across the board. What it should, what my vote is, and what I think is going to happen.
That's a slam dunk. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I think a lot of I think The Last of Us's art direction is fantastic, and a game like Final Fantasy VII's art direction is no slouch either. Like, between the weapon effects, the style of all those characters, the world of Midgar itself, like I think all that is fantastic art direction. But man, like Ori is like such a beautiful game.
I know.
And I don't know how you don't pick it for this category. The only other contender might be Hades, actually. But even that, like, I don't know if it's as memorable as Ori, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I'm
Ori,
1000% with you. I feel like it's just between the art and the music. This is the thing I talk about. Like when I remember, like my heart swells when I think about Ori. Like, and it's because of like I'm picturing the purple and the whites and the blues and the flash of white, the Ori just kind of like dashing its way around the world. It's a visual and like emotional experience. So I definitely want it to get recognized because it's got so snubbed. But I bring myself back to like who voted on this stuff. It's the same people who didn't vote for Ori for Game of the Year. So I'm not sure. I just don't know how overlooked it's being by the voting group.
Yeah, I would say like of all the categories Ori's nominated for, like this is the one. It's like this one's the most no-brainer of them all. But this is the one I think has the strongest chance of winning. Of all of them. So. Yeah.
So probably coming dead last.
Probably. Next up, best narrative. And this one, again, a lot of the same categories, but one game that I know Sean didn't play that I definitely played. 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, and The Last of Us Part 2. My personal pick is not going to win at all, but it's 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. It's a fantastic visual novel from the folks that made Dragon's Crown. The stories in all of their games have always never been super strong, but they knocked it out of the park with 13 Sentinels. It's basically this cool story about this post-apocalyptic future, and you're basically following these 13 different protagonists and kind of their journey to kind of make their way through this world and just be like high school students. It's almost like a mix of this coming of age story with like this post-apocalyptic mech story, which is just this weird mishmash, but
I'd
it
vote
was
for that
really
too,
well written
if I knew about it.
and really well done. And I think Final Fantasy VII Remake would probably get my vote instead if it wasn't for the ending of that game, where it kind of falls off a cliff a little bit. But everything else with the narrative in Final Fantasy VII is also really strong. And also, it's the pacing's not great in Final Fantasy VII. Like, there are some definitely down points into the story where you're just like, it's very middling.
Well, that's
in some of the parts
curious.
of the story.
I'm glad you brought that up because I've been wrestling with that this 30 seconds we've been talking about this is like for The Last of Us 2, I think pacing is a big issue with that game, but I'm like, okay, do you separate that out of the narrative, the story that it's telling? And I think I actually am going to abstain from my personal vote on this one. I'm not going to provide a vote, but I do think The Last of Us 2 is going to take it, and I disagree with it. I don't think, like, my whole take on this is like, I don't think that it's all that challenging to just go, here's just a whole bunch of terrible things that are going to happen to people. Like, I don't know that that's what it's definitely not what I want in a narrative, but I do think that that's what a lot of people really enjoyed. It's like they liked having their heart ripped out of their chest and torn to pieces. They enjoyed it. So I think that's what's going to win.
Yeah. Also, I didn't lock in my choice. So actually, like, as far as who will win, so I'm actually agreeing with you. I think The Last of Us 2 will win. But my personal vote is for 13 Sentinels. I think that game should win. Next up, Best Game Direction. We've only got 2 more awards, Sean. We're near the end of the show here. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, and The Last of Us Part 2.
What even is game direction? What even is this?
So game direction is essentially just what it sounds like. We're basically like putting all the pieces, like what's basically the most cohesive package, essentially, is the easiest way to think about it. Like, there's a big long description if you go to the Game Awards website that kind of details all this that they send out to the people voting on this. But when you boil it down, it's like what game had the most cohesive package and like what felt best from top to bottom, from start to finish. And also, typically, the way that the voting for this goes, a lot of times the game that wins best direction doesn't win game of the year.
Right.
It's usually
sort of
a lot
like
of times it usually ends
kind
up
of
being the
award.
runner-up. Yeah, it's kind of like the runner-up award, but again, it's like although we didn't see that last year with God of War, or not last year, 2 years ago with God of War,
right?
Because God of War won both, but that doesn't happen that often. So, yeah, with this is the category that I think Final Fantasy VII wins, because I think that even though it does have some pacing issues, the rest of that game is rock solid. And I think that that's probably the place where, even though I'm not a huge fan of Nomura's directing on many of the Square Enix properties that he directs, I think that I have to give it to Nomura on this one.
Yeah.
I think Final Fantasy VII Remake should win and will win. But that's just my take on this one. What do you think about this one?
This is an interesting one because I think it's a battle of the cherished franchises. With Final Fantasy VII and with Half-Life Alyx, I think game direction, and I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about this in a different way, and I shouldn't be. But I think about like the game director and the task that they had in making it work, and there's such a giant chance in both of those games not working. There was such a huge catastrophic outcome that could have happened with Final Fantasy VII Remake and with Half-Life Alyx, and I think, man, it's so tough because I don't know that Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to win Game of the Year. Spoilers. And I don't know that it's like, I think it's like, it would get second place here. I think it probably will get it. And I don't know that I can say that it should because I haven't played it. Right. But just based on kind of things that I've seen and the way that I think they were pretty innovative with, this is the Hallmark game. This is a flagship game for VR. And in a game and in a franchise that people really, really adore, I think this game probably will get it. I just don't know what my personal choice is, if I even have one on this one, because The Last of Us 2 is the only one that I actually played of these. And I sure as hell am going to vote on that one, Ryan Turford.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll abstain.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, Yeah.
But I could definitely
likewise,
see it going.
I'm
I think
trying to-
either one of us is going to be right. Final Fantasy 7 or
Yeah,
Half-Life.
I mean, also Ghost of Tsushima could win it as well. I mean, this is the category that it
Or
might win
Hades.
as well, but, you know. No, I don't. Hades is the one that I don't. Think
I'm just
will
kidding.
probably
It's just
win
like
as
we'll just pick 3 out of the 5 or whatever it is.
We could, but we're gonna do that with this next award because it's the last one. Game of the Year: Animal Crossing: New Horizons, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and The Last of Us Part 2. So, Sean, why is it Animal Crossing? Why is
it
Animal
can't
Crossing
be,
gonna win?
but it's totally going to be. You know what I mean? Like
It's actually-
probably.
Is it though?
I think I'm actually going to write it down. I think Animal Crossing, will take it in the year, in the bonkers year that is 2020. I think it probably will take it. People have, in droves, tens of millions, 50s of millions of people have bought this game, completely overlooking all of the issues that I have with it and the way that Nintendo forces you to buy 2 copies if you want to have 2 islands. For God's sakes, I can't believe this is even a thing. For that reason, I
2020.
cannot endorse this. I cannot if it wins, I'll actually be a little bit upset. I know this is like it's all fun and games, and it's just like one of the award shows, and like who cares? But for God's sakes, it's going to win because of how crappy a year it was. It's not like the game on its own. It's
Well, what I would say is that, and to kind of boil your point into one sentence, it was the most important game this year. It's not necessarily the best game of the year, but it's probably 2020's most important game because, again, it was the game that was there when everyone needed it.
I guess,
But does that make it good? Does it make it the game of the year? Because I personally don't think it does. That's kind of the direction I'm going. So first of all, to give you my votes, I would say the game I would vote for from this list in particular, because really my vote if I go off this list was Ori.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if I have to vote from this list, Final Fantasy VII Remake is the one I would pick.
yeah.
But the game that will win is The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, wow.
Because I know the
Yeah.
people voting on this.
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna be disappointed no matter what. I think on this one.
Yeah. Because I don't think it'll be Hades. And I think even though it's a really strong contender and a game that, again, a lot of people are playing now, so it's fresh in people's minds. I don't think it'll win because for the same reasons that Celeste didn't win. I don't think it'll win. Not because it's an indie game, but it's also a roguelike, and I know that it's a genre that doesn't appeal to
Pretty
all
niche.
the critics that are voting on
Well,
this.
you could say the same about like the Sekiro from last year, where it's like kind of like a Souls-like kind of experience. But
It
I mean,
is,
that seemed to be
yeah.
the hotness. But maybe I don't know. Like this is kind of the hotness as well. This Hades business. But you're right. And like it's just gonna be interesting the way that voting just kind of works out. It'll be interesting to see like where like maybe there's a split across here where there isn't like a clear winner, and like whichever one does win just like squeaks out ahead of the
Yeah,
rest.
I think it's whichever one wins it's gonna be by a narrow margin. There's no front runner here unless you can call The Last of Us Part 2 a front runner. Like that's the closest I think there's to a front runner, and that's by like 2 percentage points. Like,
I'm gonna go with
could be
you. I
anything.
want Final Fantasy VII to take it. Of this group, that's the one that I want just because I think they deserve some recognition for doing it right and doing it in a way that people appreciate and they celebrated this year. And like, there's so much love for Final Fantasy VII. And like I said before, that one really could have fallen apart. But I think that one should probably take it. But it's also conflicting too, right? Because it's a remake. You know what I mean? Like it's a revisit. It's not even like in a sequel kind of a way.
But I also saying that, I mean, I would have voted for Resident Evil 2 last year. So I
Right.
mean, there's a like. It is just a remake, but it's not just a remake because it's a full new game.
Is it
like,
you
from
who
top to
said when we
bottom.
were talking about like new categories that we would create? Was that you who said a remake category should be done, or maybe that was
like a
One?
best remaster category? Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
what
great
I said.
that's a great call. That's what we should.
yeah.
We should
'Cause
just do that.
that's where you would put like a remake or remaster. Whereas Final Fantasy VII remake, it's not just copy paste the first game. It's a very very different game.
Yeah.
And again, like to the point where I'm a huge fan of the original Final Fantasy VII. I am not happy with a lot of the decisions in that game, but I recognize the excellence of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So that's why I would vote it up. And honestly, my second pick behind that, if I had to pick one, was actually Doom Eternal, because Doom Eternal, I think, is a game that just a lot of people overlooked because it came out at the same time as Animal Crossing, and people were too busy playing Animal Crossing to see the wonder, the beauty of that combat. The combat in Doom Eternal was so punishing, but it was just so good.
All of this
Sean,
year, Ryan, in a year where Microsoft Studios published, I think, 10 games this year, like one of the most prolific years in its history, and just nowhere be found on this list, man. Like, what the heck?
They came close. They came close with Ori. They really had
Ori's
a
in
winner
there
on their hands with
somewhere.
Ori.
Like Flight Simulator's in there somewhere. Wasteland is in there.
Gears
a little bit.
Tactics, Wasteland, Grounded. Like
Yeah.
all of the games that they published this year, other than Bleeding Edge, made the list, Sean. That was the only one that did.
Well, Battletoads.
And Battletoads. Battletoads didn't.
Yeah,
make it.
could have maybe got a. I don't know. No, it probably didn't deserve it. Anything.
Maybe. But anyways, Sean, we got to go. But before we go, Sean plugs go.
Well, you can find me on the internet. Right now, I'm actually looking through my achievements list to say, like, what else did I play? I don't know. Are we doing another conversation about like our own favorite games of the year? Is that
That's going to come probably in January because we haven't played Cyberpunk yet. So we should probably. In fact, we haven't even talked about that.
at this point
We'll
we're
talk
never
about
gonna?
that later.
I don't think it's ever coming out. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Capri at it's Sean Connery Capri like the pants. And if you guys enjoy this show, you can support us at patreon.com/YumiCapri.
That very nice, my friend. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. That's TURFORD, because everybody always asks. You also find us on YouTube and Twitter at the Xbox Drive for both. In fact, youtube.com/the Xbox Drive, or just on Twitter at the Xbox Drive. You also find us on podcast services around the globe. But for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been The Extra Mile, and we out.
Animal Crossing better not win shit, boy.